listening to the Terrific Teacherpreneur, a podcast for teachers looking to grow a successful online business. Your host, Alex, was able to transform her Teachers Pay Teachers store from a small side hustle into a profitable full-time business. She now helps other teachers do the same. Listen along for actionable tips and helpful wisdom about business and marketing as a teacherpreneur. Here's your host, Alex.
Hello and welcome to the Terrific Teacherpreneur podcast. This week's episode comes from my brand new office. I just moved house. I'm really excited to have a nice space that's my own. I'm finally unpacked. It feels really light and airy and tidy for now. And yeah, I'm just really excited. The last couple of episodes I was recording on the floor of my walk-in wardrobe in my old house while Lily napped, and it just didn't have that same feel. This feels really nice. We're finally getting her to sleep in her own cot, and she's sleeping really well. And I'm finally able to have some time to myself again in the evenings. I've been having bubble baths, reading books, and now recording podcasts, and I'm just feeling in a really good mood about it. So I thought I would share that with you. This week, I want to chat about dollar deals, to dollar deal or to not dollar deal when it comes to TPT. I have a few thoughts. So let's dive in. But before I start on whether you should be doing dollar deals, I want to briefly break down a little bit about what I mean. In the TPT world, you can obviously discount your resources. You can run sales and you can individually discount resources. You can do lots of really cool things. And one of the things that is fairly popular is discounting a resource or multiple resources down to $1, and hence it's called a dollar deal. And there's two ways you can do dollar deals. One is just to choose resources in your store that you discount to $1. And maybe you mention this to your audience, hey, this resource in my store is $1, whatever. The other type of dollar deal, though, is where you actually collaborate with other TPT sellers and you run like a dollar deal hashtag kind of sale thing. And it's called a hashtag sale. And I mean, this episode could be specifically about hashtag sales, but I actually happen to sometimes just have dollar deals in my store. So I thought dollar deals was a better episode. But hashtag sales are where, you collaborate with people and you say, hey, it's like hashtag July dollar deals, whatever. And then a bunch of you put that in your titles or in your descriptions. And then you select one or two resources and you discount them to $1. And then you do that for like 2 days or whatever. And you market to your audience. And it's like a thing. Hashtag sales are kind of contentious. Some people love them, some people hate them. And you can do more than just $1. You could do 50% off hashtag sales, $2 things, whatever. But either way, whether it's a hashtag sale or something you're just doing in your store, you are doing a very heavy discount. And so that's like an interesting debate. And I thought it'd be fun to sort of share both sides of the argument and share some of my opinions. I'm going to start off with the negative. Let's start with why some people might not like dollar deals and hashtag sales and steep discounting. And that's, I think, is pretty valid. Is most people that don't like it would probably say that it's undervaluing our amazing hard work. We do put in a lot of time into our resources. We work really, really hard to make them. So why should we be selling them for literally nothing? And it really is. Once you take away commissions and fees and things, sometimes you get like 60 or 80 cents on this resource. So it's not exactly hugely money making. You'd have to sell a lot to really make a lot of money. But I'll talk a little bit later about why I do that, even though it's not necessarily always profitable. But it is kind of undervaluing your work and selling something really cheap, not making a lot of money, not really, getting what you're worth, I suppose. And I can understand that argument. Totally fair. I've also, heard people say things along the lines of, well, people will pay full price. People will buy your resource when it's full price. You don't need to discount it in order to make sales. And that's totally valid too. So that's kind of one thing to consider. If you're deciding whether you want to participate in these dollar hashtag sales or offer dollar deals, you might think, no, it's not for me because I don't want to undervalue myself and people will actually pay full price. Why should I lose money? If you feel that way, that's totally valid. That's totally fair. That's one way of looking at it. But let's talk about the other way of looking at it and a little bit about my opinion. I think one of the other arguments that you might hear or feel when it comes to this kind of stuff is a sale is a sale. I think if you're a newer seller, that's kind of the idea, is that selling something is better than selling nothing. So I think it's that's a good point I think people have. But my view on it, I think, is that sometimes these things there's twofold. One is a benefit for you and one is a benefit for your buyer. The benefit for the buyer, of course, is that we all know, especially teachers, I know that not all buyers and TPT are teachers, but most of them are, teachers are super underpaid. Like as a profession, we are just not valued and we just don't get paid what we're worth. And it's really sad. But a lot of teachers are buying TPT resources out of their own money. And, that adds up. So it's really nice to offer them sales and discounts and bargains and dollar deals, especially those that can't afford, just genuinely aren't being stingy. Like they just genuinely can't afford to buy things more than a couple of dollars. So we're doing a really nice thing for buyers. That's one reason I think that dollar deals are really great. But the other thing that's really good about them is us. It's about getting exposure on a resource. Specifically, if it's like a worse selling resource, that just never sells or hasn't got a lot of views or doesn't convert very well, in theory, you're just getting those aspects improved on a resource. So if you find a resource in your store that has like less than 100 views or like a 1% conversion, or it's just never sold or sold a small handful of times, and you do a dollar deal on it and then it actually gets some exposure, it starts getting views, it sells a bunch of times, it gets a high conversion, that's undeniably going to help that resource. It's going to help it ranking wise in the algorithm on TPT, because TPT is now going to think of it as a resource that has sold and a resource that has been seen and converts better. And I don't think there's any arguing with that the algorithm does look at those factors. Another thing, of course, is once you've sold a resource, you get reviews on a resource. I actually have a product line with 12 products in it, and one of the products I featured in a collaborative hashtag sale for $1. And it sold a bunch of times. I was really excited. And out of my product line, which resource do you think is the best seller? The one that has the most reviews, it does really well. It's that one that I featured because it kind of got a little bit of a start, you know what I mean? A kickstart. So it can be really great to kind of give your worst sellers a boost or your newer resources a boost. Obviously, when you're doing your dollar deals in your store, that's probably what you're going to do. You're going to look at like, hey, what's not got a lot of views or what's not selling? Let's make it $1. If you're participating in a hashtag sale, you tend to do things a little bit differently. You don't want to pick your worst sellers. You want to pick more of your best sellers. The reasoning for that is just that if you're not specifically marketing that resource to someone's just like searching for that hashtag on TPT because they found out about the hashtag sale. It's the hashtag is added to titles, but ultimately TPT is ranking the same way it always does. So if you've added a hashtag and discounted a worst seller, it's going to be on like page 20. So you're not going to get seen in that hashtag sale. So you want to probably choose better selling resources for that if you want to be ranking higher in that hashtag sale. But yeah, that's kind of the rationale I have when I'm participating in that. Best sellers are great for hashtag sales, worst sellers are great for just dollar deals in your store. So yeah, those are my thoughts on dollar deals. I actually wanted to add one other final thing about dollar deals that you might want to kind of keep in the back of your mind. Like I know that I've already talked about the negative things earlier, but in general, dollar deals are not that dissimilar to freebies on TPT. And some people do have a view that it kind of gives TPT a bad rep, or it kind of hurts the marketplace in general if everything's offered really cheaply. It doesn't look as high quality. That is something to keep in mind. It's not something that keeps me up at night or anything like that. But yeah, the big thing for me, I think, is exposure. It's just all about getting eyes and getting sales on a product. That I think it's worthwhile. I mentioned earlier in the episode about how, if you're selling something for $1, when you take away the TPT's commission, maybe even a 15-cent transaction fee, whatever, you might end up with like 80 cents or like 65 cents or whatever. And it does feel a bit like, well, what is the point of doing this? Well, I'm not going to make money compared to if I sell it for $3 or $5 or whatever. That's fair enough. But like I said about the exposure thing, sometimes I view a dollar deal not as a money maker in the short term, but as a money maker in the long term. In the short term, I might literally make just like $5 because I just sold a bunch of them and, it wasn't super profitable. But in the long term, like I mentioned with the ranking and algorithm and stuff, that resource now has sold more, it's got a few reviews, it's converting better, it's got more views, etc., etc. And so in the long term, that resource might sell better for me. So I just kind of think of it as, no, it's not making me money now, but it will make me money later. I'm just giving it a little boost and kind of helping it along now. I don't think that's such a bad thing. So how do you decide when it comes to these things? Like, say you do decide that you want to do the whole dollar deal thing, you're not against it. How do you decide, how often to do it and what resources to do it for? I mean, I've already mentioned, you can put a few worst sellers in your store as a dollar deal, maybe. You can even create a custom category in your store. You can send an email about it every now and then. Maybe pick one product each month or a handful of them every now and then. Talk about it on social media, that kind of thing. Yeah, this is like totally up to you on this. You could do worse sellers, that kind of thing. I guess what you'd want to do is to not do things too often, because we don't, at the end of the day, want to train buyers to always get things for free, cheap, or on sale. If we throw too many sales in our store, if we put too many freebies out there on our email list, like we train the buyers to think, I don't need to buy things from you full price, or I don't need to buy things full stop. I'll just get all your freebies. I'll just shop when there's a sale. I'll just grab all the dollar deals. Like, that's kind of true. So you don't want to be training our buyers. You don't want to maybe be putting like 10 resources every month as a dollar deal. Like, that's probably not wise. It's just something you might do here and there. I just think it's like a little worthwhile thing, maybe for every now and then. Don't overdo it. That same thing applies to hashtag sales. I'll definitely think I'll do an episode one day just specifically about hashtag sales, but there's a lot of etiquette involved in them and how they work and everything. But same thing there. I just think everything in moderation. You don't want to do something too often. If you participate in literally every hashtag sale that goes on TPT, you'd be doing them all the time. And again, that's not a great look for your store. It's not really great for buyers to, like I said, to be training them to do that. So just every now and then, I think is a great idea. Now, the final thing I want to leave you with is I just want to wrap up and talk about, just like mentioning a little bit like I did earlier about the whole buyer thing. I said sometimes dollar deals and things like this are nice for those teachers who just can't afford resources. I think it's almost like a noble thing to reward our followers and subscribers and people in our audience, or teachers in general, buyers on TPT, with, hey, here's a freebie, here's a sale, here's a dollar deal. Just like sometimes it's a nice thing to do. But there really are certain types of buyers who just really drawn to those things, and it's nice to cater to them. I highly recommend doing this if you have ever happened to have offered dollar deals before. This is helpful. If you haven't, then you're not going to have this data, but you can check out your sales report on TPT. I did this the other day, and I just was having a look through, next to the buyer name, it has a little number and it says like 1 or 2, whatever, and you can see how many resources they've purchased from you. And if it's more than 1, you can click on it and then it will tell you which resources they got. And I like to look at that to see, oh, look, people are coming back for the same product line, or they like this and this, similar topics. It helps me see what products people are buying together, and therefore what I can create in future, what I can make more of, whatever. So it's really insightful. But the sales report also shows sometimes buyer behavior, because, I'll click on someone's name. They've bought 5 things from me, not all in one go, like gradually, 2 things this year, 3 things last year, whatever. But everything they've ever bought from me was like a dollar deal. Everything was on sale, or I can like see their buyer habits. And like, Sally really only buys stuff that's for $1. I did that dollar deal last year. She bought it then. She's a follower. Clearly she sees when I uploaded something, made it $1. Like, I don't know if those are the best buyers that you really want in your audience. I'm not saying we want to draw in those kind of people, but let's just acknowledge that Sally exists. Those people exist. We don't know their story. Maybe that's all they can afford, whatever. But that's a buyer behavior. That's like a person that does that. And so why not cater to them? Just like we also cater to the other end of the spectrum. We've got those buyers who have the cash and will happily drop $40 on a bundle. Like, no biggie, I'm going to buy a year-long bundle for this. I'm going to spend $50 on that. I've got school funds I can spend, whatever. We've got those buyers that will spend big bucks, and we've got the buyers that will only spend small amounts of money. And like, I don't think we should just cater to one, or, be obsessed with one. Like, let's just cater to everybody. There's no harm in that. Have bundles in your store, but also have freebies. Have dollar deals, but also have reasonably priced products in the middle. Just, why not cater to everybody? Why not cater to all types of buyers, and like, don't cut anyone out? Like, I don't think that's a bad idea. Feel free to argue with me on that. I would love to hear your point of view. You can always send me a message on Instagram at Terrific Selling Tactics, or make a post in the Facebook group, The Terrific Teacherpreneur. I'm cool with either, but I'd love to hear your opinion. If you have a strong view against anything I've said, that would be really fun to hear. But anyway, I'm going to wrap up this episode. I just thought it'd be fun to chat about dollar deals for a change and see what you think. If you're against it, that's cool. I totally understand. I can see that point of view, but I don't have any issue with it. And I think every now and then there's no harm in offering a nice discount and getting some exposure on your resources. So everything in moderation, like I said, remember, but I think it's a pretty cool concept. Hopefully I'll do another episode about hashtag sales. If you're interested, let me know. But that's it for me today. I have an action item for you, I guess. If you're interested in this whole dollar deal thing, why don't you go and put a resource in your store as a dollar deal, and then like mention it on Instagram and Facebook, or send it to your email list or whatever. I don't know. Note to followers. That's always a good way to do it too. Or feel free to participate in a hashtag sale, or create a hashtag sale. create a couple of dollar deals. It doesn't even have to be $1. It could be $2, whatever. Like, why not? You don't have to throw a whole sale in your store to do this. In case you're new and wondering, you can just go to your product listings and edit your listing and just choose a discount price when you're on an individual listing. When you do change something to $1, make sure you do it temporarily. It's not something you want to do like for 6 months. It's just something you might do for like a day or a week or a couple of days or something. Add in the title of the resource, dollar deal or $24 deal or $1 deal, whatever, so that people know when they come across it. And yeah, like I said, make it a short-term thing. If you put something on sale or discounted, dollared down, like permanently or for a really, really long time, then that discount isn't special anymore. And I think buyers can be quite upset when they come along to your store, they buy something because they think, oh my God, it's on sale. The sale might end, or, oh, it's $1. That's really cool. It might be temporary. And then they find out you always do that, or it's always on sale. That's not really a good strategy in my mind. So keep these things sort of temporary. And you've also got to remember that when something's temporary, I think it makes it a bit more irresistible. You say to your Instagram followers, this resource is $1, but only for today or only for this weekend. Grab it now. That kind of makes them go, oh, and grab it now. If it's like, oh, it's always $1, they just probably forget about it and never come back to it. So something to keep in mind. Feel free to throw a $1 deal. That's an action item for you. Be a nice thing for your buyers, I think. It's like a nice altruistic thing for your buyers. But anyway, I hope that you have a terrific day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Terrific Teacherpreneur. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate that effort. Come back for more actionable tips and helpful wisdom in the next episode with your host, Alex. Until then.